Section 1 of the Black Cat, Volume 4, Number 4, January 1899. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by J.J. The Black Cat, Volume 4, Number 4, January 1899. Section 1, The Tax on Mustaches, by H.J.W. Dam. The rivalry between Vincent and Halliday was bitter enough before Miss Belmayne occurred. It then assumed an aspect almost Corsican. Vincent was the Rome correspondent of the London Thunderer. Halliday was the Roman representative of the London National. Vincent was an Oxford man. Halliday's intellectual credentials were dated at Cambridge. Vincent was of middle height, dark, lithe, and athletic. He had an electric energy and quick, penetrating brown eyes with a merry light in them that was attractive. Also a brown mustache that approached the feminine ideal. Halliday was of stouter and flabbier build, with a blonde, sharp-pointed beard and a face like Lord Salisbury's. Lord Salisbury was, in fact, secretly his model. He was the cousin of a peer, but notwithstanding this drawback, had managed to develop a value of his own, which shows his great force and determination. He was also 5 years older than Vincent, who was only 31, and in the game of life, if not of love, years have a distinct value of their own. Both men drew lavish salaries, moved in the highest society of Rome, and were polished carpet cavaliers, and very popular. Both, too, had weaknesses which revealed their temperaments and are correlated forces in this narrative. Vincent's weakness was a small sloop yacht, which he kept at Naples for vacation cruises. Not having time, in the pressure of events, to love a woman, he loved this yacht. Whenever social, diplomatic, or international affairs did not command his attention, he and his pipe and the yacht had charming hours of mental communion together in his apartment. Whenever leaves of absence permitted, the three did Capri, Sorrento, Ischia, and the adjacent Turner paintings of the Bay of Naples in congenial company. On stretching seas, in the calm and gorgeous afterglow, he dreamed of a possible fair one in the nebulous future. This showed his temperament to be romantic. Halliday's weakness was the war cloud in the Balkans. Whenever other news failed, he would knit his editorial brow and use his portentous ink and see ominous signs of trouble in Servia, Bulgaria, and the Balkan provinces. One can always see ominous signs of trouble in Servia, Bulgaria, and the Balkan provinces, and they make an excellent frame on which to hang long and sweeping periods dealing with possible international complications, from which it will be seen that Halliday was ambitious. He always used the most majestic polysyllables that fitted, and these won him the reputation of a powerful and far-seeing correspondent, which reputation he confidently believed that he deserved. These diverse temperaments caused the two men to secretly scorn each other, and this feeling was not diminished by their alternating newspaper triumphs, important bits of news from the Quirinal or the ministries, which fell now to one and now to the other, and caused the usual variations of anger and delight. Thus it was when Miss Belmayne and her parents arrived at the Grand Hotel for the winter. Parents are, of course, of no importance, but it may be mentioned that Mr. Belmayne had made stoves and incidentally accumulated 2 millions on the shore of Lake Michigan. Miss Belmayne was one of those girls who, without effort, bowl over unprepared Englishmen like tenpins. She had style, Paris style, and this, when the dressmaker is driven with an intelligent curb, is very fascinating. She was fairly tall, blonde, had ideas, dark blue eyes, and a frank, sympathetic nature. All these exercised a novel and powerful influence on the two men. They met her on the same evening at a diplomatic reception. The charms mentioned were quite enough for Vincent. He went home, lighted his pipe, put on his slippers, looked at the fire, and said, "By Jove!" He said nothing more to the fire or anything else for 2 mortal hours. Then he said "By Jove" again and went to bed. The same charms sufficed to stagger Halliday, but to them he added the 2 millions. He was older and more practical. He wrote his cousin, the peer, and told him to be sure to come to Rome that winter. Then he mentally watered his genealogical tree, resolved to lay siege to the beautiful Vicksburg with the firm patience of a Grant, and absently took a cold bath. This chilled him at midnight, but did not check his ardor. Miss Balmain took Rome and the Forum and the Colosseum very seriously. This was a novelty to Vincent and Halliday, so they awoke to its grandeur and took it very seriously indeed. They sent her books and bronzes and prehistoric pavements and fragments of ancient palaces by the cartload. Papa Balmain, who was indulgent, said he didn't particularly care for a macadamized drawing room, and engaged another room to hold the ancient architecture. The attentions of the 2 men soon became constant and very marked, and through archaeological mornings and afternoon drives on the blocks of the Forum and the steps of the Colosseum, on the Pincian Hill and the rooftop of St. Peter's, they fell deeper and deeper in love, but kept their own counsel. The dear girl was as yet unconscious of it, but they hated each other with the hate of the 1850-60 dramas. It was anything, all, to win the adorable beauty, and sentence the other fellow to lifelong despair. The primal cause of all the subsequent trouble was Vincent's yacht. He had on various occasions shown Miss Balmain the high responsibility of his position as correspondent of the Thunderer. Now and then he wrote his dispatches at her hotel, after dinner, and 2 days later would read her the powerful, ponderous Thunderer editorials, which, telegraphed all over Europe, were based upon the dispatches sent by him. This interested her tremendously. Like every true American girl of nowadays, in her anti-matrimonial, anti-babies of her own period, she secretly longed to sway nations, to write dispatches which set Europe and America in a ferment, which caused Salisbury, the German emperor, and the Tsar to instantly buckle on their skates, as it were, and dash off to do something final, seemed to her the only occupation worthy of woman or of man. She found nothing so delightful as helping him, and he knew nothing so delightful as her help, notwithstanding that the hotel note-paper was scarcely the proper stationery to bear this freight of heavy thought. When the Thunderer arrived, she would read the dispatches with a thrill of interest born of her indirect connection with the great newspaper. Finally, she wanted to write a dispatch, just a little one, all by herself. He, reserving rights of correction and revision, consented. It was a safe contribution, not at all sensational, about the returns of the olive crop. She wrote it. She also read it, word for word, in print 2 days later. That experience was a crisis in her life. Destiny opened out its arms to her as a woman of might and power. Halliday lost ground visibly after that, and had emotional neuralgia of the most torturing kind. The cause of the trouble, as before stated, was the yacht. A dirty steam trader from Marseille, while coming to anchor, had taken off the bowsprit of Vincent's secondary idol, together with a large slice of her peerless nose. It was like an accident to a highly esteemed female cousin. The best medical attention was instantly necessary. Vincent knew the Italians. He knew that if he did not personally arrange the contract for repairs at Naples, the contractor, who did them, would afterwards own the yacht, bring suit against his personal fortune, and hold his family responsible for the balance of the money. In short, he had to go to Naples for 2 days. Miss Balmain, strange to say, received the news with joy. "I'll look after things. I'll send anything that's necessary to the Thunderer," she said. He stared at her in astonishment. "Oh, do let me. Please do. I want to show you the breadth of my mind." Events were very dull journalistically, and when a beautiful girl wants to show you the breadth of her mind, it is not only dangerous to say no, but wise to say yes. That is, if you are as much in love as he was. He finally consented, and she radiated enthusiasm. "Just read the papers if you do send anything, and be guided by them," he said. "But don't send too much, and nothing that isn't important." Then he went away to single combat with the contractor. She couldn't do him any harm. If what she sent was bad, it wouldn't be printed, and his consent to the proposal would certainly do him infinite good in connection with another proposal. Thus he mused in love and in the train to Naples. Now, it is doubtless fully understood by all adult persons that when an American girl desires to show the breadth of her mind, she is destined to show it at all hazards. The responsibility of her position weighed heavily upon Miss Belmayne. She came down to breakfast next morning with a faraway look in her eyes and 2 brown prima donna hair curlers still nesting on the soft silken hair above her forehead. Papa Belmayne at first assumed that this was a new style in breakfast toilets and said nothing. He could never quite keep abreast of the fashions, and he had made mistakes before. Then he conceived that it might possibly be an evidence of strong disturbing emotion, and ventured to inquire. She gravely removed the hair curlers, and after striking her hair 3 skillful taps, she put them in her pocket. Then she cautiously whispered to him the news. She was the acting Rome correspondent of the Thunderer. Papa was startled. It flashed instantly upon his practical Chicago mind that with a wire like that, something might be done in weeks. But no, on second thought, that wouldn't do. Still, he was proud, very proud of his daughter. He proceeded to like Vincent amazingly. "We'll give the old Thunderer a lift, my dear, if anything happens. I'll furnish the statesmanship, and you look out for the spelling and punctuation," he said. Halliday he had never liked. That gentleman's family tree and its luxuriant foliage had been exhibited several times in his presence, and it annoyed him. Not having dealt largely in trees in his career, he didn't believe in them. So Vincent's stock rose clear above the 100 mark in the Belmayne family, and Halliday's fell steadily to 0, with no offers. Halliday knew this and fumed in secret. He also guessed at once from Miss Belmayne's words and questions the foolish thing that Vincent had done. He saw in it only a clever move of his rival, and also saw a chance to spoil Vincent's chances and win Miss Belmayne with a single safe play. He was devoted but thoughtful all that afternoon. Then he went away and meditated. At 10 that evening, he entered the Belmayne drawing-room sharp-pointed, immaculate, and smiling with a visible air of conscious triumph. "Ha, ha, ha. Sorry for Vincent. Pity he's away," he said. "Oh? What has happened? I've read all the evening papers," said the acting correspondent. "Can't say, you know. Must keep a good thing to myself when I get it." "Is it a very good thing?" "Very." "Is it a big thing?" This with fear and trembling. "Biggest in months. May cause a rebellion in Italy. You know these Italians, hair-trigger sort of people when anything happens that they don't quite like." "Oh, Mr. Halliday, please tell me." He proceeded not to tell her for the next half-hour, in the cleverest way possible. He dangled the bait before her and cruelly enjoyed her attempts to seize it. He saw with concealed fury, however, that her anxiety was the tender anxiety that he most greatly feared. This armed him in his resolve, and having excited her curiosity till it was painful, he went downstairs. "What is it, my dear?" said Belmayne. Miss Belmayne was dumb with disappointment. She loved Vincent, she knew it in that moment, and he would be dreadfully beaten without excuse and perhaps lose his position. Because of their compact, he had even failed to notify the Thunderer of his absence. "I've missed the greatest news of the year," she said sharply. "Do go down to the smoking room. They're sure to be talking about it. Follow Halliday and see to whom he speaks. We must get something about it." Papa Belmayne was stout, vigorous, 55, and came from Chicago. His hair was curly and showed only a few white lines. Spurred by parental love and a desire for something to do that was slowly undermining his constitution, he followed Halliday like the species of hound which is called sleuth. His eyes twinkled and his blood was up. He had always known that anybody can be a newspaper correspondent, and he enjoyed trying it. He quickly found Halliday in the smoking room and kept his eye on him. Halliday observed this and was deeply glad. It was as he had hoped. Belmayne had fallen head over heels into his trap. Halliday was in earnest, low-toned conversation with Sir George Pearlybore, a tall, thin, white-haired,